The beginning of 2022 went down in the history of independent Kazakhstan as black, tragic days. The country was overcome by a wave of protest overnight, resulting in pogroms, arson, murders, robberies, and looting. As soon as the confusion began in Almaty and some other large cities of the country, an inseparable part of such scenarios came to the fore. Evil spirits, similar to unpleasant insects swarming in heaps of what a couple of hours ago was pleasing to the eye, but for someone it was an unattainable dream.
А вы куда это выносите?
Хозяин сказал, выносите, застраховано.
Хозяин сказал?
Да.
Ну, людей чем остановишь? Смотрите, вот эта вся толпа, это все вот желающие поживиться вот халявой. Вот. Столько народу, вон грузят в машины какую-то технику. Кто-то сказал, что якобы хозяин магазина разрешил все это разбирать. Буквально в один момент люди превращаются в животных.
During the riots, criminals smashed and robbed everything they saw. Whole families looted. Children were also caught on videos. Elderly people were also spotted. This woman became a star of social networks in these tragic days. She was filmed at the moment when she was greedily carrying out the loot. This video shows an unknown person trying to take the TV in such a hurry so that the equipment falls out of his hands. People literally broke free from the chain, ready to kill and shred everything that gets in their way. Looting allows ordinary people to suddenly feel omnipotent, an intoxicating feeling when a person loses moral principles, a sense of guilt, assuring himself of impunity. The footage, which shows that others are trying to stop the rampaging crowd, contradicts the view that looters are passively involved in the crowd. To rob or not to rob, the choice is personal. Who are they? Brought up by 3 decades of independence, those whose names should inspire pride, who built sovereignty, witnesses of creative labor. Why did it happen that the filthy hordes suddenly attacked indiscriminately, inflicting blows at times on the most defenseless?
Было все раскидано.
The place was all messed up. The stuff was all over it. The checkpoint area was broken. The doors was ripped out. The stuff was scattered on the floor and trampled. They did not so much took as damaged, probably being mad that there was nothing to take.
Это вот наш бутик у Baby. Тоже мало того, что тут разграблено, так еще и пожар был. Наглую заходят в бутик.
They brazenly enter the boutique and try to take something. It was a shock. It was not the first day, but after. There were already adequate people who calmly came in and took something for themselves and profit from someone else's grief. This is ours. We all created it ourselves. For the most part, rioters and looters are young people, younger than 30, who do not have a higher education and a permanent job. This is the average portrait of those detained after the riots. Every third rioter wanted to take advantage of the situation and steal something, and every third person has previously been convicted, including for murder, rape, and robbery. Among those who organized riots and looting, there are persons who were wanted for theft and robbery. They just went rogue and took stuff. Some of them sat eating meat and drinking cognac, expensive drinks, while others in another room just took and threw jars of pickles. They didn't eat, but took a bite. They crashed everything. Footage from a clothing store. Unknown people break windows and doors, get inside to profit from what is there. One of them was 24-year-old Daniar. He was convicted for fraud earlier. He had arrived in Almaty recently. He works as a car mechanic. He asks not to show his face, like everyone else, so that his relatives would not be ashamed.
Решили с другом выйти, посмотреть, что происходит вообще в городе.
We sat at home and decided to go out with a friend. It so happened that under the influence of these events, the riots, we thought that we will get into the building and go unpunished. We had an idea that we will go into this place, take stuff, and no one will know. There was a part from paving stones on the sidewalk, and with this method we broke the glass and got inside. Yes, it's someone else's. We understood perfectly, but did not think much. I took one winter sleeveless jacket and a windbreaker, and that's all. Personally, I took it. A friend took a laptop and 2,000 tenge from the cash register. I took everything that fit in my hands, so if there was an opportunity, I would have taken more. But I thought that I needed this amount of things. The young people left the house for one purpose: to break into and steal. A planned robbery during the hours when the city was on fire and in pogroms was organized by many other similar gangs. The jewelry store was broken into with a crowbar. They weren't afraid of anyone, sweeping everything indiscriminately. From the shop windows, the robbers were in no hurry to leave the crime scene.
Дверь была взломана.
The door was forced open and the blinds were broken too. They broke in using a crowbar. The workshop was opened and they took everything out, even unfinished items. They took the basket and began to collect everything. The lights weren't on. They only used a phone or flashlight to carry it all off. They went through all the clothes. It's just that someone in an instant decides to cash in on the situation. The destroyed Technodome store in Almaty. As a result of the riots, 17 Technodome stores were damaged across the country in 2 days. The preliminary damage exceeded 5 billion tenge. One of the looting suspects is giving a detailed account of how he stole the phones. I came in and I saw smartphones lying on the floor. It's likely the guys were taking them out of there in large quantities in bags. When you sweep away 200 or 300 phones, you don't even notice how 5 or 6 phones can just fall down on the floor. They probably just didn't pick them up. So I went there to see what else was left. But basically nothing was there. Just these 5 or 6 phones. There were also some phones lying around the yards on the street. They probably dropped them when they ran away. So I picked up 13 phones and went home. I opened one of them and kept it for myself because I didn't have a phone at that time. As for the rest of the phones, I decided to keep them for the time being. I didn't sell them, I just didn't know what to do with them. I figured that it would be better to keep the phones at home for a month or 2, and then when things calmed down, sell them. I never thought about turning myself into the police. I knew that I would only make it worse. Well, no one would believe me, and they wouldn't take long to deal with it. You know, mass riots, so many people. They're just going to lock everyone up here, and then they're going to take care of everyone. I was probably scared to confess, so they found me first.
Что там, қаншадан алдыңдар? Скидка отыр ма екен? Бесплатный, да?
In addition to the theft in a hardware store, the young man is suspected of stealing food, namely chips, juices, and energy drinks. The damage amounted to 150,000 tenge. An investigation is underway to ascertain how these people stole the goods. But whatever the robbery scenario is, the loot stays in their hands. You can see how a mountain of chewing gum, chocolate, and other trifles makes them truly delighted.
Көрсетші, барыңды көрсетші.
They ransacked the largest supermarkets with the intention to cash in. Hundreds of people grabbed everything they can get their hands on from the stores. People smashed equipment and cash registers. After the arrest, 18-year-old Inom Jean pleaded guilty. He was involved in the robbery with his uncle. A citizen of Uzbekistan came to Almaty 2 months ago to work. First, we went to Magnum, took products. Then we went to the Sulpak shop. We went in, there were a lot of people. Everyone was shouting, "For free!" We took the necessary TV, phones, laptop, and went home. In Magnum, people took many products, chocolates, energy drinks, sausages. We were waiting for a trial. We lived in Uzbekistan. There were no decent conditions, no job. My sister is studying. It is necessary to pay for her college. It is hard to earn money in Uzbekistan, but here it is possible. The looters stopped at nothing. They carried away everything they could. They drove up in cars where they loaded the goods, from household appliances to chocolate bars.
Продукты.
Someone immediately tried to sell stolen equipment on classified sites. Others sold stolen perfume on trains on their way home, and others drove in cars with stolen electronic devices across the country. In the midst of the riot, the looters tore out the bull statue and desperately dragged it down the street. What for? They opened and smashed ATMs. Those things that couldn't be hacked were taken away with them. Later, one such stolen ATM was found in one of the rented apartments. Today, not one of those who were detained for looting these days fully understood the scope of what they have done and do not recognize themselves as robbers. The crowd, which was ready for anything to profit and get rich on the tragedy of those who worked tirelessly for years creating things that were trampled down and uprooted overnight. I do not consider myself a looter. I do not think that we have done the greatest damage. I don't consider myself a looter. I didn't go there. I didn't have criminal intent to loot. But I think it just happened like that.
Это мой ресторан. Почему говорю?
Давай хотя бы лить на алкоголь я заберу.
Почему?
Потому что мы оттуда и так и забрали.
Ну все забрали, братан. Давай закончим, выйдем. Хорошо?
Ну я еще заберу.
Хорошо. Давай на улице поговорим.
The looter, who demanded to give him elite alcohol, will then drive the Kamaz these days, and he will, as he put it, in other words, to create chaos. And he wasn't worried if there were people on this way, as it didn't matter for hundreds of others who those days threw the country into chaos, monstrous unrest, and paralyzing fear.